He has that innate talent of even the most difficult times, giving comfort, giving solace, bringing stability. In my 64 years, there are people I've known that have passed away, and there's been Tony that has been there to comfort the family and the loved ones, sometimes the most difficult times of their lives. He could better this community as a public servant, but bring people together, even people with divergent thoughts and philosophies, but in the end, bringing enough comfort, enough stability to a situation that there's a consensus and then resolution and progress that is made. So, I'm so excited. I've seen what a great job Tony's done now back in the legislature, but I do believe that with him as governor, that ability to bring people together, to bring folks even with different perspectives together, it's what this island needs. God bless Atacaubo 2026. God bless Guam.
I'm Tony Atta, and I approve this message.
It has been a few days since I produced a show using this whole, the commercials and stuff like that, because the power went off for us in Jigo. It was Sunday night, when the winds and the rain started to pick up. The power went off, I think maybe like 10 o'clock Sunday night, and it hasn't come on since. But and I need the power in order to run the big computer from which we do this stuff, right? And so we were prepared. Actually, we got generators after the last storm, and I'm not gonna say what kind of generator it is or where I got it from, but it has this dumb auto sensitive something that like detects the carbon monoxide levels, and I call it dumb because I absolutely had the generator like 20 feet away from the house in the open air. It's open air, and this thing keeps tripping off. Like it turns on and then it trips off like a few minutes later, and so we've had to like do some MacGyver stuff, not like changing any of the wires to override the mechanism, but like taking the panel off, facing it a certain way. And so now it runs like for 30 minutes. But what is that? We're like, these shows last longer than 30 minutes. And in order to get the data and to get the stuff, I need power at the house. Anyway, long story short, I don't have power yet. I'm streaming this from Johnny Rosario's living room or from our dining room. I brought the big computer over here so that we can have these shows, because it's been since Sunday night that we've had one of these. And anyway, I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you are part of the 2/3 of Guam who's had their power restored. In a more selfish way, that's a little more natural to me. Like a part of me is very envious that you have power. One of those people. I'm one of those people that if you tell me, if I don't have power and you tell me that you have power, there is a chance that I might be upset right in front of your face. There is a chance that some honest part of me blurts out, well, that sucks. But the rest of me wants to be gracious and say, well, I'm very happy that you have power. Anyway, if you are watching this from Rhoda, I want you to know, and I think this applies to every reasonable person on this island in Guam, that we are praying for your recovery. And I know lots of people are ready and willing to donate to help with the relief drive. Hoggett Mayor Kevin Siswico, who is the president of the Association of Mariana Islands Mayors, has been tasked by the Mayor's Council of Guam to lead a relief effort. And hold on, I know I have. Hi, everybody. Oh, Georgine, our sister Georgine does not have power. I love you, Georgine. Our sister Vanessa has power. We love you anyway, Vanessa. Oh wait, hold on. I know there's a flyer that we shared from Mayor Siswico. Hold on. Okay, so beginning this Saturday, July 11, Sunday, July 12, and Monday through Friday, that's July 13th through 17th, there will be a gathering of donations at the Hoggett Mayor's office. They are looking for butane gas, bottled water, Clorox wipes, rice, and canned goods, non-perishable food items to be donated, to be brought over to Rhoda. We are in communication with a couple of people regarding boat service from Guam to Rhoda. So far, we know that Joaquin Cruz, who is the owner and captain of Shut Up and Fish, he's also a Democratic senatorial candidate. He has spoken with Rhoda Mayor Aubrey Hokug and volunteered the use of his vessel from Guam to Rhoda and back in order to drop off relief supplies. I'm pretty sure this has all been coordinated with Mayor Siswico. So starting this Saturday, that's tomorrow at 8 a.m., 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. tomorrow and Sunday, you can drop your donations to the Hoggett Mayor's office, and then Monday through Friday next week from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., you can drop your donations. You can contact Mayor Kevin Siswico if you have any questions at 689-5387. So on this show, I'm just getting my bearings. It's been a few days since I've done this, and I'm used to doing this every day. I've gotten used to doing this morning show. This is supposed to be a morning show at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, and then on non-scheduled times on Sunday, and the evening show at 7:30 p.m. But until I get power back, this is just going to be kind of a little bit all over the place. And just anyway, so on this show, what I wanted to talk about was all those rumors, all that information that was coming out about what was called Invest 97W, at least by some. And where that all went, the power update that came from Guam Power Authority. Then I want to talk to you about something that is I am very surprised about, and no pretrial motions were filed. None. No defendant filed a pretrial motion in the Tenorio Corruption Case. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what that might mean and why no pretrial motions were filed, which is something a bit on the extraordinary side. And then the deadline for political candidates in Guam to answer the questions in the Klaru survey have passed. All but one gubernatorial team has answered the questions. Two out of the four filed AG candidates. There likely are 5 that will be filing, except it's just that Tom Fisher, by the time of this survey, had not been a filed candidate. So only 4 filed candidates appeared on this survey, and out of the 4, 2 of them answered the survey, and then a bunch of senatorial candidates answered the survey. We have a 58% participation rate in a survey about transparency, accountability, and merit hiring in the government of Guam. I want to talk about these 3 things on the other side of the commercial break. Give me a second so I can cue this up properly, because it's been a few days since I've done this. And we'll start that conversation with the power update and the latest on that so-called Invest 97W. Stick with us.
Good Morning Show with Troy Torres is brought to you by 76 Circle K Guam.
Can I tell you guys? I have a confession. One of my favorite things. One of my favorite things during um events like these is when it gets we're in the power restoration phase of recovery here in Guam, and thankfully, this is where we're at, right? Like we don't there hasn't been that much damage. We were spared again, right? And so we're in the power restoration period, and I think that we've got all kind of got like forgotten, or maybe we've romanticized the past or something, right? Or it's just been so long that between from one event to the next that we don't really remember things correctly, right? But following Pangsona, I mean, I think most of us spent 6 weeks or more, from 6 weeks to 6 months without power. And that was a long time ago, granted, lots of improvements made to the system, right? So by the time Mawar came around, we were out of power from anywhere from like a week and a half to 6 weeks. Drastic improvement, right? Then Sinlaku comes, and granted, not as powerful as Mawar, not as much destruction as Mawar, but still, we have transmission lines, distribution lines that are above the ground, weatherheads, transformers, they're all above the ground, right? So there's an expectation, and then GPA puts it out, right? There's an expectation that there's going to be power outages during and following the storm. What they don't ever want is there to be a blackout, right? So Mawar, the power system was so ravaged, there was a blackout. Sinlaku, no blackout. They were able to isolate certain things so that there was never a blackout during and following Sinlaku. And I'm not sure. I remember it's very uncomfortable, especially when a typhoon passes, because it feels like the day or two after the typhoon passes, that typhoon has sucked up all of the coolness on all of the wind, and we're left to just drenched in sweat following the typhoon, no power, no aircon, no creature comforts. And GPA fixing the power system following Sinlaku had to have been on a record-breaking on the record-breaking side of things. Even though I'm one of the 1/3 that doesn't have power right now, the fact that 2/3 of the island has power restored 2 days within 3 days of condition 4 being declared, as in the crews going back out. You can't count back to when the power actually went off. You have to count from the restoration period forward, because that's the only time that the crews are able to do their work, is when they're allowed to go back onto the field. So I think it was Tuesday, right? Tuesday, sometime in the morning, condition 4 was declared, and the island was declared safe enough for the crews to go back out. The crews went back out, and it's Friday now. Prior to this morning, GPA was able to get 66% of the system load restored, and nearly 3/4 of the feeders have been at least partially energized. So this has got to be breaking even the record that GPA had over at Sinlaku. I know it's not fast enough for everybody. I know for those who are without power, it's not a fast enough thing, right? But can I just tell you, and I can say this because I'm one of the people without power, but one of my favorite things to do when when power situations like this come up is to read the comments. People are so aggravated and extremely honest about their feelings when it comes to power. And every time I find myself like saying something out loud, like, man, I don't have power yet, and my friends laugh at me because I'm always one of those people laughing about the situation. But I'm fine. I understand. I remember the long road it has taken for the CCU to get GPAs to this point where they're at record setting levels here. Like it used to take months, weeks or months to get the power back. Now it's just days. And I'm really hoping I get my power soon. But I get it. I get it. There are a lot of areas to focus on. Now, what are these areas to focus on, right? So stand by, opening up. This is July 10th. Yes, correct. All right. Listen up if you live in the north, okay? There's two Dedido feeders. So first is feeder P089 in Dedido. That's Route 1 southbound from Woostig Road to Batulu Street, including Gura 505, Paradise Estates, Guam International Country Club, and surrounding areas. That's like a lot of homes. That's a lot of people. That same feeder P089 in Jigo is Route 1 southbound from Old Ace Hardware to Woostig Road and surrounding areas. That's not me. I'm not included. P204 to Muning, Talon San Antonio toward Guam Premier Outlets and surrounding areas. Ongoing work in progress on P204. Okay. P271 Dedido, a portion of Harmon Loop Road and surrounding areas. P271 to Muning, Route 1 northbound toward Dos Amantes Plaza. Where's that? Where's Dos Amantes Plaza? Scamblery Street, Adrian Sanchez Street, also called Hamburger Road, and surrounding areas. Oh, I need to send this to someone who was asking me about that. She's going to be so happy. Wait, let me just message her right now so I don't lose this. Stand by. Virginia. Hi, your feeder is being prioritized by GPA according to latest. Okay, I'm gonna forget to do that, so so John Bagaporo says, do a top 10 funniest comments. No, because I don't want to make people feel bad. But I would. Maybe, right? Without saying the names? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Does anyone know what laundromat is open? Jaylene Pangolin asks. Yes. Oh gosh, what's the name of it? It's run by the Titanoes. It's where Ace Hardware used to be in Jigo, where the amusement park what is the name of that laundromat? There's also the one in the same building as Jigo Payless. Actually, like I think all the laundromats in Jigo are open. Reba Garrido says, why is Lieutenant Governor Josh acting as if he's the reason things are getting done after typhoon? Such a political smokescreen for votes. I haven't seen anything that the Lieutenant Governor is doing, Reba, so I don't know what to reference there. Yeah, but I do know that the mayors are doing a lot. I do know that Mayor Kevin Siswico, Mayor Jesse Allig, they are doing a whole lot. I saw that Congressman Moylan is even helping with the Rhoda relief effort, which is that's a really wonderful thing. Of course, also working on the whole commodities thing for Guam as well. Princess, am I saying your last name correctly? Miyago says, Troy, can you please post that list? The list, actually, it's on Kandit already. It's been on for the last couple of hours. If you're on our WhatsApp channel, it's there. It was there first. But we also published the full list onto our Facebook page and onto our YouTube as a post, and also onto our website, candidnews.com. That's the name. Yes, 24 hours by ERC. Thea Baza says, funny you mentioned that. Mind you, she was so spoiled since she was born in 2001. An adult back at work calls me asking me if there's power. I say no, so I guess she's sleeping in her car again. All right, so where did I leave off? That's P271. Okay, so now P312. These are the areas that GPA is working on. Okay, that's in Tamuning. That's Route 1 northbound from Triple J to John F. Kennedy High School. Route 10A from 76 to Home Depot, Talo Verde, and surrounding areas. P2006 and P313 Tamuning. That's Route 1 northbound, the former Hoffa Exchange to Don Don Donkey Village to Airport Road and surrounding areas. It looks like an entire area of Tamuning leading more toward the airport area and Harmon are being worked on by GPA. P330 Jigo. Along Route 1 from Matagwak intersections toward Chalan Lachanch entrance, Chalan Kaskahu, a portion of Matagwak along Route 9, Machinanao, Agafagumis to Potts Junction, to include Route 1 southbound Paradise Meadows, Chalan Kota, and surrounding areas. So, like, the rest of Jigo aside from me, ongoing work in progress on P330. P331 Jigo, that's Route 1 southbound from Papaya Lane, that's Song Song Hills subdivision, toward American Grocery to include Chalan Dokdok, Hosen Diego Street, Chalan Islan Guahan, Jigo Fire Station, Dominican Catholic School, FBLG Middle School, Matagwak, and surrounding areas. So, like, GPA is working on every part of Jigo except my area. Okay, Central. P250 Hagutnya. That's Hagutnya Swamp to Route 4 toward Afami Road and surrounding areas. P250 Chalampago Ordat. That's along Route 4 from Spring Lane to Route 10 intersection, including Deru Road, Maimai Street, and surrounding areas. P250 Sinahanya. That's Sinahanya Mobile, Holiday Towers, Afami Road, Chaut, and surrounding areas. P250 Mangilao, from Mangilao on to Derry Road toward Route 10, including DOC, portion of DYA, and surrounding areas. P251 Hagutnya, that's East O'Brien Drive, Route 1 and Route 8 intersection, including Bank of Guam, Reflection Center, Addis Commercial Center, Big Hook, and surrounding areas. P251 MTM, that's Route 8 from Sergeant Roy T. Demian Street, exit to E.T. Calvo Way, J.A. Camacho Street from East O'Brien Drive to Biang Street, Mung Mung Catholic Church, Chamorro Gardens, and surrounding areas. P253 MTM, that's Sergeant Roy T. Demian Street, Biang Street, west to Toto Cañada Road, Route 8 from Shop for Less to My T-Mobile, including West Cesario Street, Chalamachalti, and surrounding areas. Well, I think, if I remember correctly, these are some of the areas that were kind of like among the last after Sinlaku. It looks like it's being prioritized more upfront now. P294 Mangilao, that's Route 10 westbound from Ode Public Health to Route 4 intersection, Ta'i Mangilao, and surrounding areas. P294 Chalanpago Ordat, that's Route 10, Route 4 intersection, Chalan Ping Pagu, Chalan Inda, Inalado Road, Ta'i Road, Pagu Bay Estates to Pagu Bay Resort and surrounding areas. P312 Barragata, that's Tidzin area along East Sunset Boulevard from Triple J Forwarders toward Landing Road, also known as 4th Street, West Sunset Boulevard, Lower Sunset Boulevard, Central Avenue, and surrounding areas. In the south, a lot of people are asking about this. P220, that's Santa Rita Sumai, Route 17, Cross Island Road, up to Bishop Flores Street and surrounding areas. That's a big stretch of area. So, and then also P221, Santa Rita Sumai, that's Santa Rita Village, through Pali Ferdinand Way up toward Chalan Obispo, Olano, to RR Cruz Street and surrounding areas. P223, Santa Rita Sumai, that's Route 2A from Taco Bell to Route 2, including Route 5, Sumai Payless, and surrounding areas. That sounds like the entire Santa Rita, actually. That's good for you guys over there. P223 Hoggett, that's Route 2 from Route 2A intersection to Nimitz Beach, including In on the Bay, portion of Route 12, Pagachal Drive, Hoggett Village, Umang Road, and surrounding areas. P294 Jotnya, that's Route 4, Chalan Canton Tasi, from Jotnya Village toward Pago Bay, MU Luhan Elementary School, St. Francis Church, portion of Pulantat toward tracking station and surrounding areas. And finally, for their areas of focus for the next 1 to 3 days, today and the next 3 days, I guess, P301 Jotnia, that's Pulantat, Chalantalaforo, bottom of loop to Jotnia Cliffside to Elig and surrounding areas. Let me see. Joné Sablanshaw says, just happy my area is on the list, P089. Let's see, where's P089? Did I say P089? Is that one of the ones? Or maybe that was from yesterday's list. Oh yes, P089 Jigo, Route 1, southbound from Old Ace Hardware to Woostic Road and surrounding areas. It could also be Dededo, Route 1 southbound from Woostic Road to Batulu Street, including Gura 505, Paradise Estates, Guam International Country Club, and surrounding areas. Kelly Rodriguez says, yep, MTM wasn't even on the Phase 2 list yesterday. It looks like a great deal of MTM is on the list today. Millie Indalecio says, still no power at Aragon Street, Mongmong. Let's see. I don't know where that is in relation to P251 or P253, but those are big areas of MTM that GPA is covering right now. Thea Bazit says GPA and GW are working hard, and me also no power, but the up the road, Upper Stimbo has power, Lower Stimbo doesn't. Near the fire station, Senior Center, and NCS Market, no power. I always feel bad for NCS in that entire area. After Malwar and then also after Sinlaku were without power for a while. Not a while, but longer than most, I think. Paulina Yao says, we have power at Pulantat now. Joné says Paradise Estates. Gina is asking if P253 is energized. Not energized. Well, I don't know if it's energized now, Gina, but it is on the list. It's on GPA's focus area list for work. So in MTM, P253 is one of them. That's Sergeant Roy T. Damian Street, Biang Street, west to Toto Kenyatta Road, Route 8 from Shop for Less to Mighty Mobile, including West Cesario Street, Chalan Machauti, and surrounding areas. Okay, so put your, if you'd like, you can write your questions or your comments, and I'll try to get to them as much as I'm able to. But let me just turn my attention to that whole Invest 97W thing. So I think that started on Tuesday, not even 24 hours after Super Typhoon Bobby left our area. There were all of these prognostications or predictions for and in these graphics showing what would be like this big typhoon or something like that coming from what at the time was known as Invest 97W. And at the time, Invest 97W was not showing on Joint Typhoon Warning Center's site. And it actually, let me show you Joint Typhoon Warning Center's site. Just let me take this over to the YouTube thing. So you see what it is that we see. There's Joint Typhoon Warning Center's landing page. And there you see, it's now Typhoon Bobby. Yeah. And you see Typhoon Bobby, and in this vicinity right here is the Mariana Islands. There were all of these things that were being shared on Tuesday, Wednesday, even going into Thursday about an Invest 97W. And on the Joint Typhoon Warning Center site, there has been no Invest 97W. And that's because since whoever was tracking so-called Invest 97W, it was rated as sub-low for likely development into anything. And this is the reason, especially with the with so many of these new so many meteorologists who are online, and then others who follow these weather trends being online, and their coverage of these things so readily available, it has that has raised the importance of uh, understanding where to get reliable, contextualized information. Because while some of these meteorologists are providing accurate information, it's accurate information that's more applicable to another place that's not necessarily Guam, Rota, Tinian, or Saipan. Maybe it's more applicable to the Philippines, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, even though it's something that might originate in our area. And that's the reason we rely on the context that's provided by the National Weather Service Guam office, because their entirety for existence is to watch these things for us and to get this information, make sure it's accurate, and contextualize it. This whole the viral nature of this so-called Invest 97W was a lesson, I think, for all of us in the Marianas against sharing information that's not contextualized by the scientists who work in this area and for our benefit, because all it did was raise anxieties when, I mean, it's a nothing burger. Nothing came of it. And the Idlet brothers who have our National Weather Service were trying to impress that upon us, that it could become something. But there was nothing at the time that all this stuff was going out that suggested that National Weather Service needed to inform the public about anything at the time. So all it did was cause unnecessary alarm and anxiety during a very tense period. And it also, this is the danger of stuff like that. It could lower the guard of people in the Mariana Islands against the next warning. Because the more these things come about, the more we tend to be unprepared, because after a few misses, we're like, yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to fix my yard for the next one when they tell me whatever, right? So it's really important in situations like these and in years like these that, you know, the information that we share is attributed to a credible source. And for us here in the Mariana Islands, that credible source is the National Weather Service Guam office. On the other side of the commercial break, what I want to bring to you is information that we've been tracking. Like the whole typhoon thing was just this gigantic, right, distraction from the coverage that that we were doing prior. And part of that coverage, a big part of our coverage has been on the Tenorio Corruption Case and a deadline that we had been promoting in this case. So the trial has not been moved. The trial schedule has remained as starting with the first day of jury selection on September 22, 2026. Revolving around that trial schedule is a pretrial period. That pretrial period, the first deadline of that pretrial period was July 8. And July 8 was when pretrial motions were supposed to be due. According to the federal court docket in this case, no defendants have filed pretrial motions, which makes the next month or so very interesting in the Tenorio corruption case. We'll talk about that on the other side of the commercial break. Stick with us. Welcome back to the show. It is now 1:54 p.m. on Friday, July 10, 2026. My name is Troy Torres. This is the Friday News Analysis. It's supposed to be an 8 a.m. Show, but the power situation and data and all that stuff. We'll be back to normalcy once I get power back at my place. We're also opening a studio very soon, and I haven't figured out how that's going to. I haven't figured out whether the morning shows are going to be held from my home or from the studio, but I think the evening shows would be definitely filmed from the studio. Anyway, we'll figure it out. We're opening a studio soon. Just congratulate us. It'll be in Dedado. Anyway, so we have been following the Tenorio Corruption Case, largest political corruption case in the history of this island. Someone recently asked, what's the difference between the Bordalio case in 1986, I think it was, and this case? And the difference is money, the amount of money involved. And of course, it's different events that were alleged then, different events now, right? But the biggest difference is the amount of money involved. So anyway, the Cliff's notes on the case, right? In case you know nothing about what the Tenorio Corruption Case is, following a multi-year investigation by the FBI that spanned from 2020 or from events in 2020 and into 2021, being the pandemic unemployment assistance program, the checks that were paid out to people who had their wages affected during the pandemic. A multi-year investigation by the FBI into Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio's sister, Charissa Tenorio, his boyfriend, Matthew Tapasnia, 5 other named defendants and unnamed co-conspirators, alleged co-conspirators, in an alleged scheme that stole millions from the federal government and from the poor, involving a wide range of activities that dealt with PUA funds and the PUA fraud office, which was, the PUA fraud office, the PUA office that was operated under and through the Guam Department of Labor, which is a line agency of the government. These 7 defendants were charged on June 25, 2025, which is now more than a year ago. They are awaiting trial on multiple charges and counts that, if they are convicted and sentenced consecutively, each faces hundreds of years behind bars in prison, federal prison. That trial schedule was set a few months ago by Judge Ramona Manglonia, who is the presiding judge in this case, but the case has not yet been handed off to her. According to Magistrate Judge Michael Bordalio, a few months ago, Judge Manglonia set the trial schedule at September 22. That was, I believe, the 3rd time the trial schedule had been moved, and it had been moving because of the amount of discovery in the case. Discovery is the information that both sides provide to each other that they have about the case, and it's normally considered as evidence. Not necessarily entered into the record as evidence or entered as being able, as the judge allowing for the jury to see the evidence, but nonetheless evidence in the case that had been put together since the investigation began, which likely was in 2020. We're not entirely sure. There have been documents that have been released in the case that are publicly available, that were unsealed. And these documents are what provide the bulk of what we know about this case. And these documents include the indictment, the superseding indictment, and some of the warrants that were used by the FBI in order to get things. In these warrants, the FBI agent has to make statements to the court about why someone's right to privacy has to be violated under the norms of the law, right? In order to get certain things, or search and seizure rights have to be impeded upon in order to get certain things for this case. Those warrants were unsealed. They provided more information about what the feds, how the feds put together their case. Now, we have been waiting since the trial schedule was set on a July 8 deadline. But first it was the July 15 deadline, and then the judge, Bordalio, a couple of months ago, moved the deadline to July 8. It was the first deadline in the pretrial period. And that deadline was to file pretrial motions. Pretrial motions in limine, dispositive motions, etc. This was an opportunity for both the defense and the prosecution to plead their case before the judge, before the court, to exclude certain evidence, to preclude one side or the other from mentioning certain things, from entering into the in front of the jury, photographs, videos, recordings, etc. And the amount of evidence in this case, which we don't have a complete grasp on, but we understand to be nearly 1 million pages of initial documents turned over by the U.S. Attorney's Office to the defense, on top of gigabytes of phone records, video of the recordings of the interviews of witnesses, photographs, videos, all these different things over the past year that were disclosed. It is extraordinary, in my opinion, that none of the defendants in this case filed any pretrial motions. And so this is in criminal trials, right? In limine motions, they could be used to suppress from the jury from seeing anything about a defendant's prior bad acts or criminal history. So, for example, Charissa Tenorio has a criminal history that doesn't involve this case exactly, right? Back in, I think it was 2018 or something like that, she was arrested for, and the initial reason for their arrest and the charges against her were significant. They involved alleged violent crimes. As far as we're able to tell from the federal court docket on this case, there's been no motion to suppress that. You can enter a motion in limine to limit expert testimony, to prevent certain photos or videos from being played in front of the jury, to prevent recorded statements from being admitted into the trial, so that the jury doesn't see or hear whatever these recorded statements are. References to plea negotiations or settlement discussions, restrictions on mentioning unrelated investigations or allegations. None of the defendants made a motion to suppress any of that. It's almost as though there's an acquiescence to the federal investigation in saying to the court without saying anything that none of the defendants' rights were violated in the retrieval of evidence in the case. There was nothing to suggest someone's constitutional rights were violated. This is sort of an extraordinary thing for us to see, because there's, in a pretrial period, there were always motions to dismiss the case, always motions to suppress evidence, always motions for all these different things that don't deal with the judge tangling into whether evidence is good or whether judging the evidence, right? The merits of the case. But always these motions in this period to try to get rid of the case, or to try to get to influence what it is that the jury is able to see. Now, you can, according to Rule 12B of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, there are different reasons that case law allows for a defendant to make a motion for dismissal of a case. One is if the indictment fails to state an offense. You see motions like that all the time, or the court lacks jurisdiction, or the statute upon which the defendant was charged is unconstitutional. The prosecution violates the statute of limitations, double jeopardy, speedy trial violations, prosecutorial misconduct. that affected the indictment, selective or vindictive prosecution, immunity, or a pardon. If any of the defendants wanted to have the case dismissed, they would have brought arguments like that to the fold prior to July 8 or on July 8 when the pretrial motions were due. None of them did any of that. Nothing. And you know what it deprives us of? Because July 8 was a date that we had been waiting to open up PACER to see in the case that 1 to 7 of the defendants filed pretrial motions for one thing or another, where they would have to argue about the facts in the case and therefore provide us in the public with more information about what this case is and what the evidence is. And had there have been pretrial motions, at least one filed on July 8, several days later, there was a second deadline that was for a response to that pretrial motion. And then several days after that, a few days after that, there would have been a reply back to that response. And then there would have been a pretrial conference where those pretrial motions are argued in front of the judge. Now, I don't know whether that pretrial conference will remain because there is a deadline that was broached. And I don't know if the judge would allow late pretrial motions or if there's even going to be any pretrial motions. If it's something that you can do without filing something written, you can do it in front of the court during what is supposed to be the pretrial conference that is supposed to happen. I think it was like July 27 or something like that. Or maybe it was in August or something like that. But all of this was supposed to have led to the September 22 start of trial. I don't know whether there's anything else, except for maybe the expert witness list that needs to be filed by certain times from all of the parties. Otherwise, we might just be marching from here to September 22 without any release of any further information unless there are warrants in the case that still need to be unsealed. And we believe that there are, based on our tracking of the case, that would provide greater information about what has been going on. Otherwise, it's going to be a tight lid until the trial begins and the prosecution's case in chief unfolds and the prosecution begins to enter into the record for the jury to see exhibits, which would include some of the evidence in the case. And then the entirety of that, the prosecution's case in chief would provide the full storyline. I'm sorry, not the full storyline, but it would provide a storyline that goes from A to Z without any disconnects and enough evidence that the court allows to peg things from one letter to the next in order. And so, I don't know. This is an interesting situation. I can't think of a case that we have followed. I'm sure that there are cases where there's been no pretrial motions, but I cannot think of a case that we have followed in federal court where it started off with no pretrial motions. And so all we end up going to is a trial period that begins with the first day of jury selection, which in this case is scheduled for September 22, 2026. We'll try to figure out what's next in this thing. I'm reaching out to attorneys in the case to find out what's going on. But anyway, we'll figure it out. We'll of course provide you with the information as soon as we get the information. On the other side of the commercial break, I want to show you Klaru.org because another deadline has passed, and that is in Samuel Kim's Transparency, Accountability, and Merit Survey. July 8 also was the deadline for political office candidates and candidates for Attorney General to submit their answers to Klaru.org so that all of you are able to see what it is they believe when it comes to transparency, accountability, and merit in the hiring process of political positions in the government of Guam. We'll get to that. I'll show you who has responded and who has not by the deadline on the other side of this commercial break. Stick with us.
delivered. Guam AutoSpot is extending our overstock sell-off with the hottest deals on island, like our 2025 GMC Canyon with $4,000 off. Or slide into a brand new Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross, starting at just $24,995. September is your chance to drive big and save even bigger. Visit us today or get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com or call 478-AUTO. Guam AutoSpot, where the savings never stop.
Now all I want is, what do you call it? What do I want? Crispy fried chicken. Extra crispy fried chicken from KFC. I'm just watching that. Look how much weight I've gained. This is the whole weight gain thing is a real thing for me as a storm approaches, because the stress of storm coverage is a pretty real thing. And then when the power goes off and data becomes an issue, like I'm just freaking out and my anxiety levels are through the roof and I am eating every candy and chips and soda in sight. And so all I do is gain lots of weight when the storm coverage comes. And in this typhoon recovery period, I'm making an excuse about my diet, because what I'm telling myself is I'll get back to things when the power goes on. It's a very convenient excuse for me, right? Anyway, I would like my power to go on. There is, prior to the storm and for weeks prior to Super Typhoon Bavi, we had been promoting a public service that Samuel Kim, who writes the column The Commons for Kandit News, he put together a website called klaru.org, KLARU.org. And it's such a great concept. So you go to it as a voter, you go to klaru.org and you're able to read and see which candidates for governor, for attorney general, and for senator in Guam answered 8 questions regarding accountability, transparency, and merit in hiring in the government of Guam. And at some point, and I haven't looked at the update yet, at some point, Samuel Kim is going to put next to the answers that the incumbents, or those who have been in office, gave to against their record on transparency, accountability, and merit in hiring. This website doesn't give a ranking. It doesn't say like whose answer was better or anything like that. It just gives you who answered, how they answered, and if their answer was yes, but with some conditions, a little bit about what those, at least 50 words or something like that about what those conditions are, and it's printed or it's published verbatim, and also other responses that candidates give on this. Let me just show it to you, okay? Because it's it's just such a cool thing. This is called klaru.org. The deadline for candidates to answer the surveys came and went on July 8th. And according to the update, 4 out of 5 gubernatorial teams have all answered. The team of Ada Calvo, Blas Okada, San Augustine, San Nicolas, and Terlahi Perez have all answered the survey. The team of Tenorio Muñoz Barnes did not answer the survey. Of the filed attorney general candidates, you'll notice that Tom Fisher's name is not here. And that's because at the time that this survey was created, Tom Fisher was not a filed candidate for attorney general, according to the records at the Guam Election Commission. But of those 4 who have filed, 2 of them participated in the survey, 2 of them did not. The ones who participated include Jordan Pauloon and Peter Santos. The ones who did not participate include Attorney General Douglas Moylan and Philip Tidinko. In the legislative race, The ones who, I'll just, let me go through their names and whether they responded or not. So Joseph Ariola responded, Chris Barnett responded, Robert Beneventi did not respond. Neither did Fred Bordalio, neither did Luis Borja, neither did Senator Vince Borja. Candidate Gregorio Calvo replied. Incumbent Senator Shelley Calvo did not. Candidate and former Senator Will Castro replied. Joaquin Cruz replied. Alexander Dueñas replied. Senator Chris Dueñas replied. Dave Dueñas replied. Lillian Guerrero replied. Senator Shanguma Tautau replied. Senator Jesse Lujan did not reply. Senator Sabrina Salas Matsanani replied. Mateo Mortera did not. Sarah Thomas Netterdog did reply. Former Senator Talina Nelson did not reply. Dr. Ho Wen did not reply. Senator Will Parkinson did not reply. Callan Perez, candidate, replied. No reply from Donna Muñoz-Canata. Former Senator Roy Canata replied. No reply from former Senator Clint Rigel. No reply from candidate Angel Sablan. Angela Santos, a candidate, she replied. So did candidate Jonathan Savares. Also, candidate Rafael Scambuluri replied. Former Senator Amanda Shelton did not reply. Neither did Anthony Tyron. Candidate Joseph Taidigui replied. Let me move this up so you can see. Senator Tello Taidigui replied. Candidate Brandon Vera did not reply. And candidate Gerald Yingling did reply. All right. And let me give you an example, okay? So the latest one to come in was St. Augustine St. Nicholas. So prior to this update that I'm giving you, the last time I had checked this, it had only been Therese Terlahi and Frank Blas who had submitted. Since then, Tony Ada on July 5 responded, and the last one was Joe St. Augustine. So let's see where they stand, right, on things. And so all of the gubernatorial candidates got the same 8 questions. The AG candidates got the same 8 questions that are similar to the gubernatorial questions, but because the duties are different, the questions had to be slightly changed for each one, right? Same with the legislature, okay? So for the governor race, this is how Joe St. Augustine and Dwayne St. Nicholas responded to each of these questions. Number 1, the category is open checkbook. Will you publish within your first year a searchable online database of all government of Guam expenditures, vendor amount, agency, and date, updated at least monthly? And they answered yes. By the way, all of these questions are not based on anything Samuel Kim made up. They're based on existing law. Question number 2, titled Procurement Sunlight. Will you require every solicitation, bid abstract, award decision, contract, and contract amendment above $25,000 to be posted online within 15 days of execution? They answered yes. Under number 3, sole source accountability, will you support a public quarterly report listing every sole source and emergency procurement, the justification invoked, and the approving official by name of office? They answered yes. Under number 4, FOIA performance, will you direct every agency under your authority to meet the response deadlines of the Sunshine Reform Act of 1999 and publish each agency's annual response time performance? St. Augustine St. Nicholas answered yes. Under number 5, auditor independence, will you commit to funding the Office of Public Accountability at no less than its own requested budget and oppose any appropriation that reduces OPA funding below the prior fiscal year? They answered yes. Number 6, audit findings having deadlines. Will you require every agency to publish a corrective action plan with named owners and dates within 90 days of any OPA audit finding and report publicly on completion? They answered yes. Number 7, merit in hiring. Will you publish the position, description, minimum qualifications, and basis of selection for every appointed position in your administration? St. Augustine Syndicalists answered yes. And finally, to open meetings, which is number 8, will you require every board and commission within your authority to post agendas, minutes, and recordings as the open government law contemplates, and support real consequences for bodies that do not? And they answered yes. So they answered yes to all of these questions without any qualification. If there were to be any qualifications, they could have chosen yes with, wait, where is that? Let's go to the scoreboard. Yes with conditions. And those conditions would have, what do you call it? You'll see it here, right? In the half moon sort of thing. You get, each of these candidates gets 50 words or 50 characters, I can't remember, to provide a, here, like under FOIA performance, Ada Calvo answered yes with conditions. And their conditions, this is verbatim from them. Yes, agencies will comply with the Sunshine Reform Act and be responsive to the public. Our administration will track and publish response time performance and hold agencies accountable. We also recognize that some requests are more complex than others and should be handled in accordance with the procedures provided by law. That was their yes with conditions for that. Now there are, if you want to see what the senatorial candidates answered, right? Let's go to Joseph Ariola. He's the first one. He answered yes to all of these. See, these questions are similar to the questions that the gubernatorial candidates got, but they're tailored for legislative duties and legislative action. Pretty cool, right? And this is a tool that voters can use rather than, I mean, yes, commercials by candidates are ways that the public can better understand what it is that the candidates are promising us, right? But they're also sanitized and, dare I say, there are some candidates who are not honest. You know, their commercials do not provide an honest outlook into how they would govern, either as, or how they would legislate, or how they would govern, or how they would execute the laws. Commercials serve a certain purpose, right? But they don't always serve a voter's purpose. They don't always serve the greater good, or what is supposed to be something, a purpose that is educational for voters, so that we understand better who we're considering voting for. You know, things like forums where we're able to hear what voters, or what the candidates have to say based on questions that are provided by professional groups, especially, right? Or by journalists. The candidate's record, if that candidate is an incumbent or has served in the immediate past, you know, these are all very helpful. Questions, answering of questions and surveys like these, this type of voter tool is exceptional, and it really will help us, especially if among your priorities as a voter is electing people who are honest and have a desire to be steered or to be governed by a set of rules and principles that yield better government, something that's transparent, accountable, merit-based. This Klaru.org provides voters a way to study and to understand each of the candidates better, so that we're not just electing people who we like or who transact with us, who are going to do something for us or our families, but instead elect people who answer questions to your satisfaction as a voter with a conscience. And so I highly encourage everyone to go to Klaru.org, and we'll keep promoting it as a resource, because one of the things that you're going to be able to see when you read this, and when you read the answers, isn't just what each of these people answered, but also, you know what else is an answer? If there are candidates who didn't answer this survey about transparency, accountability, and merit, that in itself is an answer that you as a voter need to consider as well. Anyway, for Candid News, I'm Troy Torres. Thank you so much for joining me today. and welcoming me back to doing these live stream shows after several days of absence on it. And thanks also for your trust in our coverage of Super Typhoon Bavi preparedness and also recovery. As soon as the next power update comes out, we'll be sure to provide it for you. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. You all have a great day. God bless you. Access to medical care is becoming more and more of an issue here in Guam, and it doesn't even matter if you have the ability to pay. It's getting harder to see a doctor, to get an appointment, or to get the specialty care that you need. So I want to show you a growing solution to a growing problem. They're going to go out of their way to help find you a solution. And they've been growing their clinical services. Aside from this place looking and feeling homely, like this is their waiting area. Like, I don't think that people really understand that they do full clinical services here. Like, this is one of their clinical rooms. Look how nice it is. You get your vision exam here. So do you need to see an OBGYN, get family medicine done, internal medicine done? This is all stuff that's done here at the Total Guam Foundation. And just to tell you again, this place is not for profit. This is the psychologist's office. Yes, they have a psychology department. They also do psychiatry. It's an entire mental health department that they have here on top of all the other clinical services that they provide. If you need medical care, if you're having problems getting a doctor, getting an appointment, call the Total Guam Foundation at 649-TODU or 649-8638. You can visit them on the first floor of the Sunny Plaza building that's next to Sunny Outlet and behind the old Bank of Hawaii building in